Whatever was there in the text, whatever you have to learn in that chapter, it was there in the PPT. That's why I didn't send images of all the markings. Some of you were asking for markings of our constitution. Let you all get your books, okay? Within a week or so, you may all get your books, textbooks. Once you get your books, then on this platform itself, I will help you to mark the. Most of the things in that chapter are not in syllabus. Everything is cut. Very little is there, and whatever little is there, I have shared the relevant slides for you in the group, and you all have already written the answers to it. Okay. So don't worry about anything else. Any markings and all are pending. We will do that when we get the books. Okay. Now coming to the next chapter, the Mauryan civilization. So let me share the PPT. Okay. So just give me a second. The Mauryan civilization. Okay. The Mauryan Empire was founded by Chandragupta Maurya in 4th century BC. So we have seen that this Jainism, Buddhism, these two religions were founded in 5th and 6th century BC. So after that, so we are still in BC, okay? After all these two religions came, the next thing was the foundation of the Mauryan Empire. And the person was Chandragupta Maurya. I think a lot of you have seen, the, what do you say, TV serials and other programs about Ashoka, Chandragupta, all these had come. Recently also Chandragupta Maurya's entire serial had come, and Ashoka also came before that. At least many of you would have seen, if not all, at least many of you would have seen. And you are familiar with the story of Ashoka, I think. Many of you know the story of Ashoka. These books are available, I think this, the story of Chandragupta and the story of Ashoka is available in Amar Chitra comics also, Amar Chitra Katha. I want you to read it. At least you will know the story. The story part we will know there. In our history books, what happens is we never, the textbooks never give you the story. They only give you, they present the facts. They only say from where we came to know about this event in history, or how did it affect history? What were the main things, you know, what a particular king, what did he do? What were his achievements? These are the kind of things that we keep on, we learn. Okay, what were his achievements? What were the systems that he set up in his kingdom? And because of that, what were the long-term effects, you know, in history? We don't really, you know, read the stories, what, you know, a lot of legends and lot of personal information about the kings and all. We know only through stories, but those things are not there in your history textbook. Okay? But it is good to know. If we know that, we are able to appreciate the facts also better. Okay. So I will tell you the backstory of how Chandragupta Maurya established the Mauryan Empire. Okay. Some of you may be knowing, but whatever it is. Many of you don't know also. We all also know that about Alexander. I think many of you would have heard that Alexander the Great, he came and he invaded India. He was on this spree of conquering the whole world. Okay, Alexander the Great. So he left Greece and he decided to conquer the entire world. That was his ambition. So he started moving eastwards. So when he was moving eastwards, all the ways he reached up to India. You know where is Greece? Greece is in Europe. So from Europe to India, he came. So all through the way, there were different kingdoms, different kings. All these people were defeated by him, and then he reached India. Okay. So when he reached India, already people came to know that a great conqueror like Alexander is coming, and they were afraid. They were afraid of him, the way he had defeated so many kings. Now, what happened? He reached the frontiers of India. Let me show you the map. Okay, wait. Now, if you see this map, children, earlier India was not like this. This was not the border of India. All this area also was India. This entire part was India, which is current day Pakistan. All these areas are in Pakistan today. But those days, all these areas were also part of India. Okay. Now, this, you can see this Gandhara. Gandhara, this is one kingdom. Okay. Gandhara is one kingdom. And this, here there was one more kingdom. It was called Keke. It was called Keke. The king of Keke was Porus. And the king of Gandhar was Ambi. Okay. Now, Ambi and Porus, they were neighboring kingdoms. Both were big kingdoms and both were rivals. Both of them were always at loggerheads with each other. Okay. Now, what happened when the news of Alexander came, when they came to know that Alexander is going to come. Now, Alexander was coming like this from Europe. He was coming like this. So, when the news came, then the king of Gandhar, who was Ambi, he, before the war, before he could invade itself, he sent a peace request to Alexander, and he said that I want to be friends with you, and he did not want to fight with Alexander. So he sort of surrendered to Alexander even before he fought. But what happened to Porus here? Porus, on the other hand, was a very proud king. Okay, so he decided not to bow down to Alexander, and he decided to fight Alexander. When he fought with Alexander, Ambi helped Alexander with his army and everything to fight Porus, because Porus was his enemy. Okay, so with the result, what happened? Porus was defeated. When Porus was defeated, he was brought in chains in front of Alexander. Generally, the victorious king, in front of him, the one who is lost, okay, that king is brought in chains and all in front of him, and usually he's even beheaded and all. Okay, he's beheaded in front of everybody and insulted and all that, because just to show that, you know, you are nothing in front of me. The king who has won, he will try to insult the king who has lost. Okay, this was how they used to do. So the same way, Porus was brought in chains in front of Alexander. Now, Alexander wanted to see Porus pleading in front of him and asking him to beg him to save his, you know, spare his life and not kill him and all that. So he asked him, how do you want to treat me? How do you want me to treat you? Okay, but the question was, how do you want me to treat you? So he thought, in reply, what will Porus say? Porus will say, oh, please don't kill me, I will give my kingdom to you, whatever. This kind of things he thought he will say. But what did Porus say? Porus was very proud. And he said, treat me as a king would treat another king. Okay. So this was his exact dialogues. In fact, in history, it is a very famous dialogue. Treat me as you would treat a king. So that means he's asking for honor and respect. Even though he was vanquished, even though he was defeated by Alexander, he demanded respect. Okay. So seeing this pride and this self-confidence, Alexander was very impressed. So immediately Alexander decided to make Porus his friend. So he made Porus his friend and he returned Porus's kingdoms back to him. So this is the story of Alexander and Porus. Now this story is connected to our story also, okay, of the Mauryan dynasty. Now what happened after he, after he defeated, and once he gave back the kingdom to Porus, and anyway Ambi was already his friend and he did not even fight a war, Alexander established, or he left behind his Greek governors. Okay, he left behind his generals and governors, and then he went back to Greece. Okay, this is like the border area. This is the border area, and he reached here. His next ambition was to cross and come here. Now this part, children, is Magadha. Can you see? It's written here, Magadha. So the present day Bihar, okay, Jharkhand, and this eastern parts of UP, this was the area where Magadha was there. So this Magadha kingdom was a big kingdom, very powerful kingdom, and was being ruled by the Nandas in those days. Okay, the Nandas were the kings. And Chanakya, you all know about Chanakya also. He's a guru, he's a teacher. Okay, he was the one who helped Chandragupta Maurya to set up the Mauryan dynasty in Magadha. Okay, established the rule of Mauryas. Now, Chanakya, when he came to know that Alexander is coming and trying to invade India, he became very afraid. In the sense, he was concerned for India's safety. He felt that if Alexander comes and starts conquering all the places in India, then what will happen is the Greeks will dominate us and they will establish their culture, their language, their religion, right? And we will lose our culture, our language, our traditions and everything. Because an invader always tries to impose his culture on the vanquished nation. Okay, so he said that all our things will be lost if that happens. So he was concerned. So what did he do? He told this Nanda, Dhananand was the king at that time. So he told this Nanda, why don't you help Porus to fight Alexander? Okay, but what did Nanda said? Nanda said that it is not my kingdom, it is not my problem. When Alexander comes and tries to invade Magadha, I will fight him. Otherwise, I will not help Porus, or I don't have to join hands with others. That's their kingdom. Why should I worry? He was like that, selfish. And he also insulted Chanakya. Chanakya's appearance. Chanakya was not very good looking. So he made fun of his appearance also, physical appearance. All this he did in the court, and Chanakya felt very insulted by Dhananand. And he was very angry with him. So that day, when he is insulted, he goes out and he takes a vow. Takes a vow that he is going to overthrow this Dhananand. He's going to remove this Dhananand from the throne, and he is going to establish some other ruler there. With that thought, he comes out. When he comes, then when he's going, when he's walking, he sees this small boy, about 10 to 12 years old. This boy is play acting. He's playing a game, okay, with his friends, where he is acting as if he's the king, okay. He's playing the role of a king, and all his other friends became his courtiers. Okay, there's Senapati and that, and his minister and all. So he said, you're this minister, you're that minister, I'm your king. And the way he was in the game, the kind of leadership qualities he exhibited, and the way he was, leading his group of friends, that impressed Chanakya very much. He said, this boy is very smart and he has a lot of leadership qualities. So he thought he should groom this boy to become the next king of Magadha and to overthrow Dhananand. So what did he do? He went and took permission. He took him away from his family. He took his permission from his mother to take him away and give him coaching and teach him everything. So those days, can you see this Takshila, this red dot, Takshashila? Okay, in English it's written Takshila, but generally in Sanskrit it is pronounced Takshashila. So Takshashila was a city where all the gurukuls of those days, the famous gurukuls of those days, were established, and all the gurus were there. Different gurus with their gurukuls lived in Takshashila. So people, students from all over the country and even foreign places used to come to Takshashila to learn. So what did Chanakya do? Chanakya took Chandragupta from Patliputra. He took him, he went to Takshashila, and he stayed there. He lived. By that time, you know, Alexander had conquered all these areas, and all the story was over. Porus and Ambi and all that story was over, and he had left. Now, what I told you, that, you know, Alexander, after defeating Porus, he wanted to come inside and he wanted to conquer Magadha also. But what happened? His soldiers were very, very tired. For years and years, they had left Greece, and they continuously they were fighting wars. They were leading a hard life. Many of them had died. No good food, no proper place to stay, to rest, being away from their families. For so many years they had lived, that they sort of revolted. They said, no, we are not going to fight anymore. We are feeling homesick and we want to go back to Greece. That's why, you know, this guy, Alexander, had to return. Otherwise, he had this ambition of conquering Magadha also. But he was forced to turn back. So he went back because his army refused to cooperate. And before going back, he left his Greek governors, and these governors are called Kshatraps. What are they called? Kshatraps. So these people were there even in Porus's court, even in Ambi's court, there was a Greek Kshatrap. And in all these adjoining areas, there were small kingdoms. And these small kingdoms were ruled by an elected leader. Okay, they were not big kingdoms. They were small kingdoms where the group of people in that village or that kingdom used to select their leader. All these areas were also, I can see somebody's mic is on.
11:40.
Whose mic is on? Please switch off your mics. Okay, so what was I saying? Yeah. So all these areas were also conquered by the Greeks, and all these were under the Greek Kshatraps, okay, the governors. And when all this had happened, now these Greek governors are very, very powerful, and they were holding the control over the kings also. And whatever the king had to do, whether it was Ambi or Porus, he had to take the opinion of the Greek governor. They were not completely free, okay? And then whatever taxes were collected by the kings here, a part of it was sent to Alexander also. This was the situation here. When this situation was there, Chanakya brought Chandragupta to Takshashila and he coached him for another 8 to 10 years. He taught him everything under the sun. He taught him art of warfare. He taught him the Vedic knowledge. He taught him how to be a king and what are the things, how he has to rule a kingdom. Everything he taught. And when he grew up, he told that he has to free all these areas from the control of the Greeks. Okay. So that is why, what did he do? He made Chandragupta fight with all the Greek Kshatraps. So the Greek Kshatraps who were controlling all these areas, Chandragupta fought with them, defeated all of them and freed all these areas, and he became the leader and the king of this area. Okay. After that, with a huge army, now he has an army and he has some power. With that, Chanakya brought Chandragupta to Magadha and he said, now you fight with Nanda and overthrow him. So then he prayed, and then Dhananand was defeated and he was removed from power, and Chandragupta became the king and he laid the foundation of the Mauryan dynasty. Now you all understood how the Mauryan dynasty was established. It was established with the help of Chanakya, and not only this, so all these areas now were under the control of Chandragupta. This map that you are seeing, children, the pink area is the area where the Mauryan dynasty lasted, but this was not under Chandragupta. This map shows the extent of the Mauryan empire under Ashoka. Okay, Ashoka was Chandragupta's grandson. Chandragupta's son was Bindusara. Bindusara's son was Ashoka. When Ashoka was ruling, this big, the Mauryan dynasty was so big. Almost the entire India, he had reached up to South India, except a few, northeastern places and a very small part of South India. The entire part of India was under the control of the Mauryan dynasty. Are you clear with this? So this is how, you know, he established. But when Chandragupta had established the kingdom, it was not so big, but it was this much. See, all these areas, all these areas, all these areas, almost this much. This was the extent of Chandragupta's kingdom. Did you understand? So now we will see more about this. What are the sources? From where do we come to know about the, one second. From where do we come to know information about the Mauryan dynasty? We have some literary sources, that is books, from where we got to know a lot. And which are those books? One is Arthashastra by Kautilya. Kautilya is another name for Chanakya. Chanakya was a very, very intelligent person. And not only was he intelligent, he was also cunning. Okay. So in Hindi and in Sanskrit, the word that is used for cunning is kutil. Have you heard of this word kutil? Kutil means cunning. Okay. So from kutil came Kautilya. So why was he called Kautilya? Because he was so cunning. Okay. So another name of Chanakya is Kautilya. So Kautilya wrote Arthashastra, a book, a big book, which tells in detail about how a king should rule his kingdom, how he should take care of the people in his kingdom, what are the systems he should establish, how he should protect his kingdom from invasions, how he should protect himself from external and internal enemies also, internal enemies within the country, within the kingdom who are eager to remove him from power, how he should protect himself. It's a very good book. So this Arthashastra written by Kautilya was written in those days. So it gives a great detailed explanation, and we get a lot of knowledge from Arthashastra about how Magadha or how the system was, how people used to live in those days. Okay. And Indica. Indica was another book which is written by a Greek traveler called Megasthenes. Megasthenes was a Greek traveler. We know that the Greek people were living in India those days. Alexander had left behind a lot of Greek people. So Megasthenes came, okay, and he stayed for many years in India. And during his travels, whatever he observed happening in the country, that he recorded in Indica. Okay. The next is Ashokan edicts. What are Ashokan edicts? Edicts are, what do you say? They are royal orders. Okay. If a king passes an order, that's called a decree or a edict. Okay. So these are the words. So this edict was whatever Ashoka made as rules or whatever he told, it was all inscribed in pillars and rocks, big rocks. It was inscribed, or it was written on stone tablets, and it was put in various parts of the kingdom for people to see. Now, all these inscriptions are also sources of the Mauryan Empire. And the last one is a monument, which is Sanchi Stupa. Okay. So Sanchi Stupa is a monument which was built by Ashoka. Okay. You all know what is the stupa? Does anybody know stupa? Stupa is nothing but it's a Buddhist structure. We will see that. I will show you even the picture of the stupa and all, and I'll explain. In detail, we'll be going through these sources. Okay. Now let's go to the next. Of all the literary sources, the most important is Arthashastra, which is written by Kautilya. Okay, so there were so many names are there for Chanakya, different names. Which are they? Kautilya, Vishnugupta, Chanakya, all these are different names. Okay, these are all his names. Arthashastra is written in Sanskrit. It's a comprehensive manual. That means it's a very big book. What is the meaning of comprehensive? Comprehensive means detailed. Anything that is written in detail is comprehensive. Okay. So detailed book it is. And what does it deal with? Politics, rules of diplomacy, principles of administration, and other political topics. Okay. So how to, administration means how to take care of the kingdom. Diplomacy means how relations with other kingdoms and other people. Okay. Other nations, with other countries, what should be our relation, how we should maintain that, and how to take care within the country also, how you have to take care of the subjects and the citizens. That is what it deals with. It was discovered in 1909, this book was discovered. Now, they will ask you questions like, write a short note about Arthashastra, or what does Arthashastra deal with? These are the kind of questions you will get. So you have to write Arthashastra. So the 3 marks they will say. So you must say Arthashastra was written by Chanakya, it is written in Sanskrit. These 3 points are important. 1, 2, and 3. What does it deal with? Clear? Next, Indica. So I told you Megasthenes wrote Indica. He was a Greek ambassador. Ambassador means one who is sent by another king. So some Greek king has sent Megasthenes to the court of Chandragupta Maurya. So he stayed there, and he was sent where? He was sent by whom? Seleucus. Seleucus was a Greek governor. He was a Greek ruler, means after some of the parts, beside that Gandhar and all on the left side, where Afghanistan and Baluchistan are there, those areas were under Seleucus. Okay, he became the ruler after Alexander died. Alexander gave him those areas to control as a governor, but Alexander died very early. In fact, when he left India to go back to Greece, he never reached Greece. On the way only he died. On the way, before reaching Greece, he died because he got a disease. He got some disease and he succumbed to the disease and he died. So all the areas that were conquered by Alexander were taken by the governors. The different governors that he had employed here and there, they became the kings. So like that, Seleucus became the king there. Okay. And he sent this Megasthenes to Chandragupta Maurya's court. He wrote, so Megasthenes wrote a book named Indica, which contains his impressions of what he heard and saw during his stay in India. So naturally, he was a traveler and he was an ambassador. So he, as an impartial source, he is an impartial source. That means he will write neutrally. So this is a more reliable source of history, we can say. He will not try to praise the king or something like that, because, otherwise the kings, those who were in the court of the king, sometimes just to please the king, they will write all sorts of stories and say, our king was so brave, our king conquered this. Some of it may be false also. They do this to praise the king and get gifts and rewards from the king. Whereas Megasthenes is a foreigner. He just wrote whatever he saw. So that's also a reliable source of history. Then original Indica is lost, but its fragments still survive in the writings of Greek authors like Strabo, Arrian, and Diodorus. Okay, so these are some other Greek writers who wrote a lot of things. They took information from Indica and they wrote in their books. So in those books, we get a lot of parts which are from Indica. So from that, we are able to get what Megasthenes wrote in Indica. Then archaeological source, as I told you, is archaeological means monuments, okay, inscriptions, or any article. Okay, those are archaeological sources. Ruins, okay, these are all archaeological sources. So what is an edict? I told you it's a decree. See this word decree. Please note this down. Decree means order. If you can't remember this in your book, you should write down order. Because I'm sure many of you now you know. After some time you'll forget what I said and you will forget what is the meaning of decree. So an edict is a decree, means it's an order. It's which is issued by a sovereign. Here the meaning of sovereign is a king. Please write. Sovereign means here king. Decree means order. So edict is an order issued by a king. If you write that also, you will get marks. What is an edict? They will ask. So you have to write that. Okay. So what the edicts of Ashoka form the most important source of Mauryan history. So lot of edicts are there of Ashoka. So from there we get a lot of information about the Mauryan. See here, there is a picture of the Ashokan edict, which has been inscribed. His order has been inscribed on a rock. Okay. How many are there? 14 major rock edicts are there. So 14 major rock edicts means they are big, huge edicts, which have lot of inscriptions are there in that. And 7 pillar edicts are there. So 7 pillars with his orders have engravings have been found. There may be more, but we have found only this many. And a number of minor rock edicts. A lot of small rocks where some inscriptions have been written also have been found. Now these inscriptions provide a useful insight into the life and ideals of Ashoka. So what did he believe? How was he as a king? From his orders we can know, whether he was a good king, whether he was a charitable king, whether he was generous, what was his, feeling towards his citizens. All this we come to know from the inscriptions. So the 2 famous rock edicts, one is Rock Edict 1 talks about protection to animals. Once he became a Buddhist, so Ashoka, he was a great invader and conqueror. But after the war of Kalinga, I will tell you this story also later in the next class. He becomes non-violent and he becomes a Buddhist. Once he became a Buddhist, he issued orders that no animals should be killed in the kingdom. And that is written in Rock Edict 1. Okay. The Rock Edict 1 says that all animals should be protected in the kingdom. And Rock Edict 13 talks about the Kalinga War, the famous war which brought about a permanent transformation in Ashoka, which changed him completely. And that was the Kalinga War. So description of the war and what happened after the war is written in the Rock Edict 13. Okay. So we should stop here because next class I will talk, this is Sanchi Stupa. Next class I will talk about Sanchi Stupa. We are, I think, time is up. It's exactly 11:40 now. So I'll stop. I think everything till now is clear. If any doubts are there, okay. If you guys feel that, not understood, next class you can, in the beginning of the class, I will answer your doubts. Okay.
Okay. Bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Take care.
Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.